the richest king of all time. Known as the richest king ever, and the one that was gifted the special wisdom by God, Solomon, the third king of Israel. He's not only famous for the keen intelligence, and the good sense of judgment, but also for his hidden treasures with full of poverty. Many people still remember him in the anecdote when he solved the case that two women both claimed to be the mother of a child. He tricked the parties into revealing their true feelings by using a fallacious appeal to moderation. Some consider it an archetypal example of an impartial judge displaying wisdom in making a ruling. He was the one that built the first temple of the Hebrew in Jerusalem, and led the country to enter the most prosperous age of the history. Solomon was crowned when he was 12 years old, and he was afraid that he might not be wise enough to govern the country. At that time, God came to his dream, and said to Solomon, "Ask what I should give you." Solomon answered, "Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. But I am only a little child, and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people, and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours?" The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, "Since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. And if you walk in obedience to me, and keep my decrees and commands as David your father did, I will give you a long life." Then Solomon awoke, and he realized it had been a dream. God kept his promises. And Solomon's wisdom, success, and wealth increased beyond imagination. About wealth, if converted to the US dollar today, the king would have become 1,000 billionaires, the richest human being ever. In addition to gold reserves of hundreds of billions of dollars at today's market price, he owns 4,000 stables, horse carts, and rents up to 12,000 horses. The leaders of nations around the world sought his advice, and willing to pay off for that. However, his intelligence also displeased many people. One of them was the Queen of Sheba. It was King Solomon's trains that made the queen and her camel lorries that time angry. Originating in the Bible, the Queen of Sheba is a figure featured in the stories of many cultures and religious groups. Although her exact homeland has not been agreed upon, she is known as a queen from the Red Sea region. The queen arrived in Jerusalem and carried a lot of spices and gold and gems as a way to exchange business with King Solomon, and she also prepared many difficult questions to the king. As a result, he answered all the questions easily. The queen was amazed at his wisdom, and was very impressed. And so, she fell in love with King Solomon. Her love was so great that when King Solomon was in danger, she pleaded with God to save him. In return she would give up all her gods to worship only God. Solomon ruled the country well, and had absolute trust in God. In order to maintain good relations with his neighbors, he established alliances by marrying many foreign wives. However, because of this, his devotion to God gradually declined as his wives often introduced him to other gods and rituals. According to the Bible, since then, the Jewish state has also begun to decline. The soldiers and the ones believing in God left him, leaving the country in critical condition. Hence, the success and happiness he had achieved also vanished. However, the story of him has left us many precious lessons and living rules. The Ring of King Solomon. According to the Talmud, Solomon's ring was engraved with the Shem HaMephosh, the ineffable name of God. And Islamic authors tell us that it contained the most great name of God, along with 4 jewels that had been given to Solomon by angels. In the Islamic accounts, however, the jewels are said to be inscribed with phrases. The first jewel gave Solomon dominion over the winds, and was inscribed to God belong power and greatness. The second gave him dominion over birds and beasts, and was inscribed let all living things praise God. The third gave him dominion over earth and water, and was inscribed heaven and earth are the servants of God. The fourth gave him dominion over the jinn, and was inscribed there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Muhammad, of course, was not born until many centuries after the angels brought Solomon the jewels. The anachronism can be explained by the fact that angels exist outside of time. The ring served King Solomon as a signet ring, for sealing letters and decrees. But it was also the source of his supernatural powers. With it he was able to control the winds, and to fly about on a wind-borne carpet. It allowed him to communicate with animals, and even with flowers. But its most notable use involved the jinn. By means of his ring, Solomon could summon these otherworldly spirits and make them do his bidding. He could also exorcise them from possessed persons. Did Solomon's ring actually contain jewels given to him by angels? After a fashion, reports Nicholas Roerich, a Russian mystic who traveled in Tibet during the 1920s. According to Roerich, the ring was set with a fragment of the Chintamani stone. This ancient stone, described as a chunk of Moldavite with glowing striations, had been preserved in a lamasery that Roerich visited. The abbot presented Roerich with a fragment of it, and revealed that the stone had been brought to earth by a messenger from Sirius. Another fragment, said the abbot, had been presented to Emperor Taslavu of Atlantis, and another to King Solomon. So the ring may have contained a fragment of the Chintamani stone. What it did not contain was a so-called Solomon's seal. A hexagram or pentagram. Solomon's seal is the magical symbol par excellence. But it did not arise until medieval times, appearing on amulets that sought an association with King Solomon and his ring. And one final description of the ring has come down to us. It is found in a Yiddish folk tale. The tale goes as follows. King Solomon was sitting on his throne one morning, and he decided that Benaiah, the captain of the palace guard, needed a lesson in humility. So the king summoned Benaiah and gave him an impossible mission to fulfill. I have heard rumors of a fabulous ring, said Solomon. It has a unique power. When a sad man gazes upon it, he becomes happy. But when a happy man gazes upon it, he becomes sad. Find this ring and bring it to me. Benaiah set out in search of the ring. He traveled from town to town, inquiring as to its whereabouts. But no one had ever heard of such a ring. And he was about to give up when he spotted a junk shop, whose proprietor was sitting out front. Benaiah approached the man and described the object of his search. A ring that cheers the sad and saddens the cheerful, said the junk dealer. Come inside. They entered the shop. From a box full of baubles the junk dealer took a plain, silver ring. He engraved some words on it and gave it to Benaiah. Benaiah read the inscription, nodded sagely, and headed back to the palace. Solomon was expecting an unsuccessful, and humbled, Benaiah. So when Benaiah strode in and handed him the ring, the king was taken aback. Inspecting it, he read the inscription, and let out a melancholy sigh. King Solomon removed his costly rings and slipped on the ring from the junk shop. "It was I who needed a lesson in humility," he said. "This ring has reminded me that wealth and power are fleeting things." For inscribed on the ring was a Yiddish phrase, "This too shall pass." Up till now, anyone who has ever interacted with the Jews seems to have remarked that they are descendants of the Solomon family, because they are always oriented in finding the core of the problem, seeking to solve it. Unleash the clutter of life.